I apologize on behalf of my father. Actually, I'm not sure if Emirs apologized, but I do on his behalf because I know that he really wanted to be here, and unfortunately he couldn't be. I'm going to start by reading his speech and then I'll add something. His speech is titled Chibok and the Mirror in Our Faces, Some Reflections on Gender in Our Society, by His Highness Muhammad Sanusi II, CON Sir Kinkun. It is a great honor for me to have been invited to speak on this landmark occasion of the third year of the atrocities and barbaric attacks in Chibok that led to the capture of hundreds of young girls from the school. In 3 years, Nigerians have been horrified by this act and the consequent crimes of forced marriage, forced labor, and may even be sold into slavery. Let me begin by congratulating my sister and friend Obi Ezekwesili, and all other sisters and brothers in BBOG who have kept this issue alive and remain committed until we see all the girls back. As we remember the girls captured in Chibok 3 years ago, we must remember that they constitute only a fraction of the victims of this insurgency. I would urge BBOG, while you keep this issue of Chibok on the table, to broaden your message to cover all girls and boys abducted by Boko Haram, and also draw attention to the condition of girls and women in our society in general. To give you an idea of the extent of this problem, as at today, in Delori 2 IDP camp near Maiduguri alone, there are over 1,500 Boko Haram girls who are either Boko Haram abducted girls who are either pregnant or carrying babies who have been freed by military. Hundreds of orphan children are being carried away to unknown destinations, and they're all gone into oblivion due to society's neglect. It is therefore critical for the BBOG to gain much broader support in the populace and be more effective. To use the dramatic case of the Chibok girls as a reference and a plank, but not the exclusive focus of the struggle. Our interest should be in bringing back all our girls. But after these girls are brought back, should we ask ourselves as well, where are they being brought back to? What kind of society? How much better is the normal environment we all take for granted than the Boko Haram camps? These questions ultimately force us to face the reality that the kind of society we have created is, in fact, is the root cause of the emergence of groups like Boko Haram and occurrences like the Chibok tragedy. All my life, I have been engaged deeply with the question of women and the oppressed and marginalized groups in our society. I have come to accept, like you, that remaining committed to this discourse is a risky and potentially costly venture in this environment. The elite's consensus is about a culture of silence and complicity, where everyone remains in his or her own comfort zone, and where the voiceless majority are allowed to remain where they are. The argument, it seems, is why should you care about poor rural women when you're able to educate your own daughters in the best schools in the world? Why should you hold up a mirror to our faces, expose our unclean underbelly, and remind us of the brutish life to which over many decades we have subjected a large mass of our population? Our colleagues and compatriots among the elite do not like statistics. Numbers are disturbing. I recently gave a speech in which I said the northeast and northwest of Nigeria are the poorest parts of the country. This simple statement of fact has generated so much heat. The noise is yet to die down. But what really are the facts? The Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative and the UNDP in 2015 published data on the incidence of poverty in Nigeria, showing that on average 46% of Nigerians are living in poverty. This is based on the UN's Global Multidimensional Poverty Index, which focuses on education, health, and living standards. Although this average is in itself bad, it masks even more serious internal inequalities and incidences of extreme poverty by region and gender. So, for example, the southwest of Nigeria has less than 20% of its population living in poverty, while the north has more than 80% of its population living in poverty. In the northeast, the figure is 76.8%. Over 90% of the people in Yobe and Zamfara states are living in poverty, compared to 8.5% in Lagos and around 11% in Osun and Anambra. The response to this speech has been a barrage of personal attacks and insults aimed at silencing any voices that dare shine the light on society. to which we are saying bring back our girls. There are those who believe these attacks are aimed at discrediting me personally, but even if that is the objective, it would not work. I can only be discredited by what I have done and not by insults and lies on social media. And in any event, personal criticism has no impact on the issues. These attacks are aimed at diverting attention from the issues raised, and all of us who are involved in this struggle must remember a few things. We are dealing with an anti-intellectual environment. And with people whose failure has bred a sense of insecurity, which leads to incomprehensible, almost insane reactions to simple advice. Secondly, that these problems are deep-seated and have been there for a long time, so changing mindsets will be difficult and painful. Finally, we must never succumb to the temptation to join our opponents in the gutter. You may say what you like about me for as long as you like, so long as you address the issues. As Michelle Obama famously said, when they go low, we go high. Instead of hiding these statistics and being scared of repeating them, what we need to do is bring out even more of these data. These are already published and easily verifiable, but not often discussed in the public space. But these data help us understand what poverty means for girls and women. According to published research, over 70.8% of women in the Northwest are unable to read and write compared to 9.5% in the Southeast zone. More than 2/3 of 15 to 19-year-old girls in the North are unable to read a single sentence compared to less than 10% in the South. In 8 northern states, over 80% of the women are unable to read and write. Only 4% of females complete secondary school in northern Nigeria. 78% of adolescent girls are in marriages in the Northwest, 68% in the Northeast, and 35% in the North Central. These numbers clearly mirroring the poorest regions in the country. The statistics in the other zones are 18% in South-South, 17% in Southwest, and 18% in Southeast. Apart from the huge loss of productivity and income caused by the lack of focus in education, especially for girls, rates of over 1,500 per 100,000. Apart from the huge loss of productivity and incomes caused by the lack of focus in education, especially for girls, adolescent marriages have led to serious social and health incomes. One Nigerian woman dies in childbirth every 10 minutes. The Northeast zone has maternal mortality rates of over 1,500 per 100,000. This is more than 5 times the global average. I can go on and on. These statistics are not flattering, and they speak to a truth that is inconvenient to most of us. But the culture of silence must end. We have a problem. In fact, we have an existential crisis. And all of us in this country, politicians, intellectuals, emirs and traditional rulers, religious leaders, businesses, NGOs, have to come together to solve this. The real patriots in the North are those who are honest enough to accept the reality and insist on change. The consequences of ignoring this crisis are unimaginable, and I wonder if the public generally recognizes this. It is a vicious cycle. Children of educated mothers are 50% more likely to survive beyond the age of 5, and educated mothers are more likely to send their own children to school. Meanwhile, every extra year of education for a girl child could increase her earning capacity by 10%. Infants born to a mother under 18 suffer from 60% higher risk of dying in the first year of their life when compared to infants born to a mother aged 19 or older. Girls who become pregnant below the age of 15 in poor countries have double the risk of maternal death and obstetric fistula than older women. In addition, girls under age 15 are 5 times more likely to die from maternity-related causes than women under 20. The statistics that are provided, therefore, represent tragedy in the lives of real human beings. This problem is most severe in the northwest and northeast, but the north central zone also fares worse than the three zones in the south. Let me state at this point that the issues faced by women go beyond girl-child education, early marriage, and poverty. Educated women still have to deal with issues of equal opportunities in the workplace and unwritten but no less real gender discrimination. As governor of Central Bank and chairman of the Bankers Committee, I forced the question of addressing the gendered workplace to the fore. We officially adopted a policy of aiming for at least 50% of employees of banks and the CBN being female by 2014. Also, to address glass ceilings, we pushed for at least 40% of senior management in the CBN and banks, as well as 30% of the board of directors being female. By the time I left CBN, I had ensured that the myth that women were only good enough to run human resources and medical services, which are more suited to what is called rather condescendingly their nature. In addition to these two departments, I appointed women as directors in charge of core technical areas in the central bank, including banking supervision, risk management, customer protection, internal audit, branch operations, and the governor's special advisor on environmental sustainability and governance policy. By deliberately pushing for the promotion of outstanding and highly competent female staff, we showed the industry that what could be achieved by women. We also developed and launched in 2013 a 220 billion naira MSME development fund with a condition that 60% of it has to be devoted to female entrepreneurs and businesses. I declared 2012 as the year of women economic power and trained NDIC and CBN employees and management staff on sustainability and gender. Also, in collaboration with ILO, we launched FAMOS, Female and Male Operated Small Businesses Toolkit, specifically to measure how much financial institutions serve their female clients. I'm going over this now to make a point that my engagement with issues of gender and opportunity for women did not begin when I became an emir. And my current engagement with forced marriages, domestic violence, arbitrary divorce, property and maintenance rights for women, etc. is not new. It is also not a politically motivated attack on any. The point I seek to stress is that BBOG needs to transform itself from a group defined by the narrow focus of an incident to one that addresses the broader social reality of African women, and particularly women in Nigeria, especially the north. We all claim to be horrified by what Boko Haram has done. We all call this primitive and barbaric. They forcefully took our young girls out of school, forced them into marriages without their consent or love, impregnated them, and turned them into mothers at a young age and exposed them to serious health risks, maybe inflicted beatings and verbal abuse on them. We're all horrified, really. But let us pause a little. These things that horrify us, do they not happen every day in every village in the north and some parts of the south? Do these girls complete their education? Do they all grow up and give their consent to marriage when they're old enough? Does domestic violence not happen? It is often not the fault of the girls or their parents. What do they do if there are no educational or health facilities made available to the poor? So the discourse on gender has to be looked at in the context of the discourse on poverty and governance. And this is why many people are not comfortable. The fact is that poverty in the north and in Nigeria is not inevitable, but as a result of decades of failed social policy. It is only by recognizing this and accepting it that we can even hope to make progress. If we do not, then the society to which these girls are brought back to will be no better than where they are now. Let me conclude with a few remarks. Anyone who challenges a system or fights for the voiceless must be ready for serious backlash. Character assassination, slander, blackmail, and intimidation are the normal tools employed by those who defend and profit from the status quo. The poor people for whom you fight are voiceless by necessity. Those of us who are fortunate to be part of the elite and who choose not to speak for them are voiceless by choice. We want to protect ourselves and our loved ones from the pain of being insulted and abused on social media. We want to hold on to small comforts of our status. We want to access power and to be seen as friends of those in power and members of our inner circle. We are afraid of being destroyed by ruthless state machinery. We have a morbid fear of being isolated, of not belonging to an exclusive club close to power. The reality is that everything in this world is fragile. Life itself will come to an end and we lose money and position and loved ones all the time. The only thing we have control over is who we are, what we stand for, what we represent. Being a coward or a sycophant will not add one day to your life or one day to the term of any of any of the things you hold dear. The worst silence is that which happens in the face of injustice. Do not be intimidated. Do not be silenced. Do not betray your conscience or sell your soul. Do not fear any human being. Stand up and take all the bullets that are fired at you, but never kneel down. If you have to die, please die standing and not on your knees.